you can do intro, and then we're gonna have start with Don. All right. If you want more air to. Okay.
Hi, and welcome to our first back porch reading of the summer. Unfortunately, this is the indoor edition because New Mexico weather being what it is, we just had a nice thunderstorm with a double rainbow, and it is probably a month early for that kind of thing here. Usually the monsoon season starts in June, but there is nothing normal about the weather anymore. So we got a preview of hopefully more rain as the summer continues. So we have a nice group assembled here. And mind if I show your faces? Wave to the camera. Okay. Anyway, Jules and I are quite pleased to host today's readers, P.W. Covington and Don McIver. Actually, Don's going to go first. Don McIver and P.W. Covington, two poets who certainly know their way around the mic. Don has been a leading figure in the Albuquerque Poetry Center for the poetry scene for the past quarter century. And PW moved here about 6 years ago, but he's already become an indispensable voice. So I will read Don's bio, and I'll introduce PW later. Don McIver first started performing in poetry in Denver, Colorado in the 1980s before moving to Albuquerque. He's written fiction and essays as well as poetry, been a member of the Albuquerque Slam team and also its coach, served as media director for the very exciting 2005 National Poetry Slam, which was held in Albuquerque and featured on HBO. In addition to performing his poetry in many parts of the United States, Don McIver also has a radio presence as a host of KUNM's afternoon Freeform, and as the host and producer of KUNM's Spoken Word Hour. He was the co-producer of the Poetry of Vietnam, which received a national award, and also of the program Slam Literary Fad of Movement. Don has produced 2 CDs, at least, Maze, Spoken Word, and Sacred. He's the author of The Noisy Pen, from 2005, and The Blank Page, Selected Poems from 2013. In 2008, he was one of the editors of A Bigger Boat, The Unlikely Success of the Albuquerque Poetry Slam Scene from University of New Mexico Press. And that's a really significant anthology. You probably could still get copies from UNM Press or maybe some of the used bookstores in the area. And so I would strongly suggest you pick that up if you don't have it. As a poetry producer, Don has been, just a great treasure for the community. He's done so much giving back to the community. He's also director of public relations for the Alzheimer's Poetry Project and one of the initiators of Albuquerque's Poet Laureate program. Don also is the person that chooses poets for the weekly chatter programs of classical music, which is, again, one of our gems. So please welcome Don McIver.
I hate those long bios. Do some of this. I know, yeah. So, because some of this stuff is not even current anymore, but that's okay. I want to thank you guys for all showing up and braving the weird traffic and weather. And I want to thank Jules and John for inviting me here, and PW for sharing the bill. I will hopefully I do have to preface some of it a little bit. I've been working on a new project, and I have a new book that officially I'm releasing next week, but I have copies. Okay. It's called Mud in the Stacks. And if it looks kind of, you should be thinking something, because it rhymes with an album that looks similar to this called Blood on the Tracks. So this is the cover is supposed to be a pastiche of Blood on the Tracks, because the book is a whole collection of poems written in the forms of Bob Dylan. And I actually tell you how I created the poems and what form I was following. I just assumed, said, okay, Bob Dylan writes forms. What are those forms? And so I wrote a whole bunch of poems in those forms, 32 of them. Partly, I think I did it because my mother was ill and passed away in November. So it became a way of kind of occupying my mind, and I didn't have to worry about content. I just had to follow a form. And so I really love it. And so I'm going to start off today with with one of them from the book that next week at Thirsty Eye is the official release. And I will be going electric and having a band that will actually play the music while I perform. Bill and I have been joking back and forth. We're trying to see. Yeah, we're going to try and see if we can get Bob Dylan to sue me, which would be great. I'm hoping that Bob Dylan will sue me, because that will be a very big press release.
For folk singers with acts.
Yeah, that too. Right. Yeah. People in the back. But so the first one, and you'll know kind of right away what song it is a pastiche of. And I call them pastiches as opposed to parodies, because parody implies funny, humor, sarcastic, but pastiches is done in the style of. And so a pastiche can be serious, what parodies tend to be funny. So all parodies are pastiches, but not all pastiches are parodies. And most of the ones in the book are pastiches. So, and it's a scarred name we got to scrawl. Okay. And, it's basically done in the form of a hard rain's gonna fall. And if you know anything about that song, like the opening lines from that song, Bob Dylan actually stole. They were from a Scottish ballad. He stole the opening line of every stanza. And there's a lot you find out about Bob Dylan and what he did. He steals from, everybody. Yeah. So I don't have any problem stealing from Bob. Yeah. So it's a scarred name we got to scrawl. And then so I changed it. And his version is kind of more on the universal side. And I went with the kind of personal side. So it's a scarred name we got to scrawl. Oh, where have you been, my auburn-haired mom? Oh, what would you do if this song starts to bomb? I've forgotten the number of 12 different places. I've run and I've hid behind 6 rotting headboards. I slipped in the back of 7 sober meetings. I've been out in front of a dozen boxes mislabeled. I've climbed 10,000 stairs in the house of my family, and it's a scarred name we got to scrawl. Oh, what did you see, my dismayed dad? Oh, what did you see with the years that you had? I saw a new horse buck with old men all around it. I saw a black dog break free and run into traffic. I saw an old window with snow that kept frosting. I saw loaded bombers, their wheels making ruts. I saw a young father dragged from a mine. I saw 10,000 pilots whose planes didn't carry them home. I saw sketchbooks and pens in the hands of my brother, and it's a scarred name we got to scrawl. And what did you hear, my eavesdropping sisters? What did you hear other than whispers? I heard the sound of a car crash shrieked out in mourning, heard the pipes of an organ that was played from above, heard a newborn wailing to a mother that was ailing, heard one bottle break, I heard many bottles spilling, heard the cries of a daughter, her back was a-breaking, heard the curse of a father who cried at the church, heard the sound of a dog break free from his chain, because it's a scarred name we got to scrawl. Oh, who did I meet on the brown-eyed sun? Who did I meet because of the tale that I spun? I met a small child, her mom on a gurney. I met a drunk, his hand still a-shaken. I met a teacher whose name said forget. I met a musician, he gave me a songbook. I met one preacher who couldn't bother listening. I met another preacher who scammed his own flock. And it's a scarred name we got to scrawl. Oh, what will you do now, my nuclear family? Oh, what will you do now, because the story's all tangling? We'll start over before the world takes a breath. We'll walk to the ends of the earth at that, all that is left, where the cowboys are many, but their hands are all shaken, where the liquor always comes with a cost, where the bartender's face just looks just like our grandfather, where regret is a poison that we won't bother swallowing, where McIver is the name, where 4 is the number, and we'll show it and tell it and pray it and speak it and remember the mountains covered in trees, then stand in the hallway waiting for news, but we'll know our story well before we start telling. And it's a scarred, it's a scarred, it's a scarred, and it's a scarred, it's a scarred name we gotta scrawl. Woo! So there's a whole book of those, some of them are famous Bob Dylan songs, and some of them he's played once. Like his website's actually amazing, so you can find out exactly when he's played it and how many times he's played it, and what album to find it on. And here I give you buy the book, I give you the playlist, so you can actually listen to the songs that I wrote parodies on. So you can build your own playlist and listen to it, and then go back and go, wow, what did you do with that song? That's horrible, Don. And I do have an epigraph, which is the Oscar Wilde quote: imitation is the sincerest form of flattery that mediocrity can pay to greatness. So this next one's a sonnet in the Kenneth Berrigan tradition, which means it doesn't rhyme. It just has 14 lines. It's called Worth Living, and it's for William James. A radio DJ asks a philosopher, is life worth living? The philosopher responds with William James. Maybe. It depends on the liver. True. A lot depends on the liver. The regulator of chemicals, the creator of bile, the breaker down of nutrients, the segregator of poisons, the processor of alcohol. During this time, a lot of living depends on the liver. At home, around fires, on conference calls, reading articles and watching videos. Yet my liver yearns for nights of live music, full movie theaters, crowded breweries and playhouses. So yes, William James, I agree. Life may be worth living, but I better check with my liver first. And this is a guzzle. Is that how you pronounce it? Guzzle, which is a Persian form. It's restricted, but I never do things exactly following the rules. So this is called the home run, and it's a guzzle about baseball. Okay. So caressed by fingers that learn, a routine leather baseball with its odd stitch is a gently held up to face ball. Rising 4-seam or 2-seam, he paints it black over the plate and almost too fast to pace ball. The closer throws some heat. The throw moves straight, doesn't bob or weave. This is an all forward, no grace ball. If I read it right, I'll hit it with the solid whack. And since I'm the fireman, I'll send it into space ball. Landing foul beyond the fence, the wary fans try their fate, looking for it before it disappears without a trace ball. My father cheers me on, and from behind my back, quit swinging so fast. This is baseball, not race ball. I move my back foot closer to the plate. He throws wide, hoping I will swing at his chase ball. I watch him wind up, watch where his eyes will track as he releases, my heart thumping like an upright baseball. Thinking, come on, your pitch is coming. Just wait. He moves in fluid motion. I swing my bat as if it is a lace ball. The bat connects, a loud and insistent crack. Don! I shout. Now this is baseball. Yeah. Right. And it's not a formal form, but there is kind of a form to this one, and it's just simply called a blessing for feet. Okay. Blessed. Blessed are feet. Blessed are Egyptian feet. Blessed are Egyptian feet, toes. Blessed are feet one can ignore. Blessed are Celtic feet and disjointed toes. Blessed are feet and toes, nails and calluses. Blessed are feet and toes, nails and calluses pressed. Blessed are German feet with calluses and disjointed Greek toes. Blessed are Rome's feet marching in time across the known world. Blessed are feet and toes pressed into black ink on birth certificates. Blessed are feet one can ignore for balance, standing upright, pain-free and tall. Blessed are the Egyptian feet for fitting under buckled straps and over stilettoed heels. Blessed are Celtic feet for oozing into heavy wool socks and rubber-soled boots. Blessed are the Roman feet, for they appreciate comfort, their heel calluses created through daily drill. Blessed are the Greek feet for running as prayer, dancing as jubilation, and joy along hike. Blessed are the German feet for the thick padding that holds them up through the long day. Blessed are feet. And I'll do another one from the book. This was the first one I wrote, first pastiche I wrote. It's actually more of a parody. And it was back in 2007. So the idea kind of disappeared into my head and then came back out in November. So I'd done it a long time ago, and it's a thing about Bob Dylan, and it's done to the tune of Just Like Tom Thumb's Blues. You know that song. When you think of Bob Dylan, he's not afraid to telegraph his rhymes. And he's happy dragging them out, being predictable, words in place and in time. He'll tell a story about lost love or the latest crime. His subject matter is great, even when it's way past its prime. Now, if you know Bob Dylan, you know he writes in couplets or quatrains. He marks the rhythm across the page and drags a word until it feels like a drain. The words alone are naked, and his voice will often strain. Don't try and figure out what he's saying, mixing up the subject matter, wearing out your brain. Sweet Zimmerman's anthems are not afraid to be irreverent. He'll write a song about a hat or songs about his latest descent. He'll tell a story often, but use his voice as if it was a vent. You might think it's silly, but sometimes that's not what he really meant. Upon thinking about Bob Dylan is that he's really into forms. Though not traditional, he'll stick to the weather and word storms. His language seems strange and his voice never conforms. But it's on your emotions that the magic just performs. Now in your head, the rhymes strike through. His rhythm is sometimes janky, but sometimes it is blue. If you're looking to take up songwriting, you might as well drink his brew, because you're studying with a master, and winning the Nobel was a coup. I know Bob's the authority. He's the best I've ever heard. The rhymes seem so effortless, and now it doesn't seem so absurd. He's a lyrical genius who's never at a loss for word. The rock and roll equal of Coltrane or the Bird. Thank you.
Thank you, Don McIver. Another round of applause. I got a little bit of sunshine trying to peek through here. Good. All right. Next up is P.W. Covington, lives in Albuquerque. For a long time, he lived in Victoria, Texas, and used to put on open mics and so forth there. P.W. is the author of at least 5 poetry collections and a short fiction collection. He's read in many venues across the Western Hemisphere, including the Beat Museum in San Francisco and the Havana International Poetry Festival in Cuba. He even won an award from the Hourglass Literary Magazine in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I'll have to ask him how you do that. Okay. He did a collection of poetry called Sacred Wounds in 2015, then moved to Albuquerque in 2017 and released The Motor Hotels of Central Avenue, one of the best poetry titles that I know of. And also great cover. Yeah, great book. And released a first collection of short fiction titled North Beach and Other Stories in 2019. He's got a novel over there, and I think another collection of poetry over there too. Last year, he published an exciting anthology called Poetry is Dead, an inclusive anthology of deadhead poetry, which he co-edited with Andrew William Smith for Hercules Publishing. PW's a veteran of the East African Somali campaign. He might tell you about that. He's been in numerous anthologies and journals, and we're really pleased to have him read for us. PW. He's also one of the best travelers. He's constantly on the road. Yeah.
You got to go to it because it doesn't come to you. Thank you, John. Thanks to everybody here. Had the pleasure of sharing space and stages with many of you, and many of you I'm seeing for the first time tonight. So thanks for coming out. I want to thank Jules and thank John for their hospitality tonight. I will be reading and sharing out of a few collections. I don't give as much preference or introduction to my pieces as some of us. I'll be reading from my short story collection, North Beach and Other Stories, which in 2019 was named a finalist in LGBTQ fiction by the International Book Awards. I'll also be reading from Male Poet, which is my most recent poetry collection, published by a women-run, women-owned publisher named Gnashing Teeth, now out of Northwest Arkansas. And I'll be reading a couple of pieces from the Motor Hotels of Central Avenue. Did anybody get a piece of the pizza back there? Oh yeah, pizza.
Our local Placitas pizzeria.
First time I was ever in San Francisco to read poetry for money, I wrote about pizza. It's a piece called North Beach. I sprang from the back of the car in front of the North Beach Hotel on Kearney, my legs unsteady. I'd made it halfway across the country on 5 cocktails and 2 commercial airliners, landing at SFO about a half hour before the early November sun had run off the edge of the continent. The regal, worn Asian woman at the counter had me sign what I needed to sign. No smoking in the room, no guest after 10. Yeah. She made a copy of my ID. I got the code to the Wi-Fi and took the elevator to my room, 116 on the 3rd floor. The hallways were dim, old but clean, carpet and forest checked greens and dark varnished wood. The place was a shithole. But it hadn't gone to shit through dereliction or neglect. I knew that a lot of effort was being put into keeping this shithole the kind of shithole that it was. Glorious North Beach shithole. Perfect shithole. Non-gentrified proletariat shithole. One of the last. Bodhisattva shithole. Hallowed be thy name. I unpacked my single case in a flurry. Enticing smells wafted up to and through the opened, unscreened window in my room. A mix of Chinese noodles, Korean barbecue, something sweet like doughy jelly. Man, I was fucking starving. I'd eaten at Gaddy's Pizza before leaving Austin and had hoped that would be enough to see me through until morning. But the drinks and the sudden energy of the vibe of the people of the street of the city got to me. I needed to eat something. There was a hunger that wouldn't be denied. Maybe There was a diner around. Back down the elevator, out the front door, past the regal, worn mistress of all things that needed signing, I turned right. The noodle places, both of them that I had taken note of while spinning out of the car earlier, were closing up, so I kept walking until I came to a corner. I never go into a place when they're closing. Try to respect everyone enough to give them a chance to knock off from work a minute or two early. Back to families, lovers, loyal dogs, and hungry house cats. The signs here were mostly bilingual, written in Chinese and English, some only in Chinese, but a noodle shop is a noodle shop, no matter how it's written up, right? And every fucking one of them was closing for the night. The street climbed uphill and pulled me along past neon red kissed awning Jackson Street, daring me into Chinatown proper. Not tonight. No, not right now. Food. The smells of restaurants, all 5 minutes from closing, kept luring me, fueling my feet. My mind left out of it mostly. This was pure id. An alley opened up and loomed to my right, just past a place called Bun Shanghai. Red paper lanterns hanging from a 3rd or 4th story balcony. Those 2 seconds I knew I'd remember forever in the heart of my mind's eye. Yes, yes, loving it, but no to Chinatown. Hungrier now and walking faster. There has to be something still open. Another right on Beckett, narrow, holy Beckett Street with its murals and clothes hanging out to dry on balconies, neon buzz drifting on the cool, damp air. And that's where I headed, following the red and yellow glow up Pacific to Columbus. The pit of my stomach was growling. A smoke shop, glass pipes and bongs in the window before me, and I go into the deep space. There are glass countertops and 2 men in the very back. I need some screens. I brought my pipe along in my checked bag and just enough stash not to be detected, but the screen's been needing to be changed for a while, clogged with the resin of 100 sleep-starved Texas nights. The dark-eyed olive men look like brothers, thin, stubble-faced, and eager. All I need is some screens. How many you want? The tallest brother asked. How much do you charge? Back in Texas, they sell them 10 for $1. I can see a whole bunch for like $5, the guy says. I don't need a whole bunch. I just lose them. Just a few will do. The shorter, darker brother laughs. Yeah, I know what you mean. Tell you what, how many will this get me? I fish 2 $1 bills out of my pocket and lay them on the counter. The clerk puts 10 dime-sized metal screens into one of those plastic bags that you only see in the drug culture. This one has tiny pink mushrooms printed on it. I thank them both and leave the head shop grotto back out onto Columbus, right past Vesuvio, the ghost of angry, bitter, fat, Florida, drunk, glorious Kerouac taunts. We have drank here together before on previous visits, but we won't tonight. I walk past tourist couples from the Midwest taking photos in the alley, digital cameras and cell phones. No more negative images. Everything is perfect. Everything is instant. Everything existing as a mirror image and shared. Proof that we were here, proof that we were there, but no proof of life. Close though. And some trips, close is good enough. It's close enough for the workers at City Lights, glowing cathedral fluorescent bookstore. They're sweeping the floor and tending the shelves. This is the heart so many times broken. The hunger in my stomach like the hunger of that sidewalk. Tosca taunts from across the street. A busker with a massive white dog beside him on the sidewalk, probably the real thing, probably a rail rider, a hitchhiker, a pilgrim. He's tuning his guitar, but never actually playing it. Looks sober, too sober for this night. And I nod to him as I walk by. The nod says, I've been there before, man. Maybe I still am. Never give up on yourself, brother. You can fuck life in the ass all night long and still respect it in the morning. Live, pilgrim, live. But I know that he knows all of this. Then I find it. At the right place, at perfect cosmic time, serving by the slice, I only need one. Pepperoni. Nothing tastes like hot street pizza. Texans never get this right. The cat at the counter, dark haired, gives me a slice on a thin paper plate, and it is so hot that it burns my hand as I hold it. I leave the shop and lean up against the wall outside on the corner of Broadway and Columbus, looking up the street at the gaudy, tantalizing, moving neon, promising topless dancers and cocktails, the Condor, Roaring Twenties, Big Owl, the Beat Museum. I'll be reading my poetry there tomorrow night. It's enough for me to just stand here. The pepperoni of the universe folded in my hands, orange red grease staining the white paper plate. I stuff it into my mouth like a man who has a bus to catch and an alibi to conjure. An older guy, black, with his road-worn cotton beard, stands next to me and asks me to buy his charity newspaper, and I just can't. He understands, and we talk. We talk about cheap food in Chinatown and strippers and cigarettes. He claims that he can get me a woman, but I know what he really wants is a quick $5 bill. I change the subject to the weather. At least it's not raining. As 10 p.m. tourists flow by, all between bites of the best pizza. The sought after and found pizza, the Beat Pizza right next to City Lights, the neon born and West Coast pizza, street style, Italian, Spanish, Chinese, German. The word sounds from passersby tell me that this is international pizza, that mine is international hunger, that the man beside me is internationally beat. From this street corner where muni buses and fire trucks turn to the farthest, darkest star, galactic hunger. It's all that anything's ever been right here. Not much more to it, really. Just that galactic beatness. It still exists. Even here, where it's packaged and sold. So I finish the crust and fold the plate in half, then in half again, then in half again. Grease-stained wedge. I turn away from the cotton-bearded man who seems to be headed across Broadway somewhere off toward the twin spires of Peter and Paul. I float back by the beautiful busker and his white dog, tossing the oily plate wedge into a street-side trash can. Like the hotel, the street is seedy, worn, but cleaned, respected, maintained. Beat is being down, but not out. Never out. Never out of the game. Never out of chances. Never out of hope. Never out of style. Back past the glass windows of City Lights. Books on display like holy Mexican santos. The sacred only works when it's approachable. How many have sat upstairs with the poetry, not as shoppers or even readers, but just to be and listen to the walls, the shelves, the rooftop laundry drying just outside the open window. Columbus runs at a diagonal crossing both north-south and east-west streets all the way through North Beach. And I follow it now, back onto Kearney, back towards the hotel, into the lobby, past the regal woman who seems to be turning things over to a pudgy male clerk. The elevator is full of 20-something Korean tourists, hip-hop earbuds and hooded sweatshirts. 3, I say, when one of the young women asks me, having switched to English for my benefit, the old white guy, probably down on his luck, probably lives in this shithole. Be kind to him. He's a big guy, but harmless, her dark eyes say as she presses the button and smiles. Thank you. I got some Chicagoans in the room. Used to be a baggage handler at O'Hare Airport. I have a few friends there. I wrote this for a friend of mine who was a retired flight attendant. living in Chicago. I had opportunity to stop by and visit with her a few tours ago. Driving stoned in North Chicago. I am driving stoned in North Chicago, Waukegan Avenue, all the way to Fountain Square, and I'm hitting every light green mile after mile. Charmed, blessed. One of those cold April nights when winter reminds us that she will stay as long as she pleases. And I'd be jazzed if things were different, if you hadn't just told me about the biopsies that came back malignant, cancer, and it spread to the lymph nodes, but not to tell anyone else just yet. And you brew coffee, strong, boiled, stovetop, dangerous, and we smoke in your kitchen American spirits from the yellow box. Then a joint of some hydro-grown sativa strain. We do the math in dog years, 8, maybe 7, since we last shared space before sacred wounds set my words to wheels. It all flies by like driving stoned at night and hitting every light green. Red reserved for canvas tennis shoes and other lanes of traffic, other avenues to heaven. Thank you.
Wow.
I am glad the lighting in here is great because the font of this book is not. It's called Modesty. Boycut panties crumpled on the floor, weapons stashed behind the door, crucifix, bedroom wall, backdrop for the sexting pic sent unasked. Modesty is a luxury, hypocrisy when life is exposed for all to see. These are poems that never had a chance. Shot down on some city street at 25 by a scared to death police officer still alive. Scarlet letters and prison terms, credit scores and carpet burns, poetry bombed to bloody shreds while waiting on friends at a coffee shop. Give your life away every chance you get, like Allen Ginsberg's marijuana, cigarettes. What you don't give away gets taken anyway, forsaken and destroyed. Poems picked up, roaming the edges of freeways with no tags, cast away, then out of mercy, gassed away. Like modesty, like secrets, like shame, what we give away comes back again as oceans turn to rain. I nuzzle your neck and move lower. You press against and pull me down, hand tangled in my hair to taste the thickened nectars of last night's lovers. Prayer vigils do not stop mass shootings. The waters of Babylon make steam from fires of eros and imagination. You are the aroma of honeysuckle and salt air, enjoyed by honeybee and hermit crab alike, never tarnished nor abused by their attentions. Metal detectors do not stop hate. Words and hope and wishes do not stop bomber jets and battle tanks. And in the morning, you fill my nostrils and mouth like a sunrise poured into a Las Vegas hotel room. Love, for all its rapture, does not end pain. Desert-dwelling paramours do not build walls around such oases. Palms die when they do not learn to sway and swing and negotiate the multiple realities of need. It does not stop. It does not stop. It never ends. Wrote that at the Stratosphere Hotel in Las Vegas. And I'll read one last piece for you out of the Male Poet Collection. Thanks again, everybody, for being here and supporting Jules Poetry Playhouse. I had an opportunity to visit them down in Old Town, but this is the first time I've been out here to Placitas, and it is awesome. Sometimes I look back on those decades of living oddly and try to understand. Sometimes I try to weigh the cost, things won, things lost, and I feel that there are dreams still out there, but I really like staying home now. Sometimes I slow down, I catch the stench of hair on fire, stoplights, and city limit landmines. And what about old PW out there somewhere on the road, scribbling wildly into that leather journal some lover gave him, sleeping it off in a motel somewhere south of Dallas, smoking cigarettes in the rain beside the Mississippi behind that beignet place, ordering off the value menu at Wendy's in Terre Haute, neck deep in some Chuck Taylor manuscript, plummeting into his 50s, lost tonight, still looking for a home to leave, played out like some freak show calliope tune upstaged by poetry slam hip-hop globetrotters, hiding redemption at all costs. It is in the comings and goings, and Darren, it is in the comings and goings and the in-between places that I've always stood. Down the barrels of cannons and derringers, I've danced with blessed dark wonder. If you want to stay with me forever, you can stay forever, or only until the moon disappears and all the truck stop supernovas turn to catastrophe. We could smoke out and we could make love together, or it could all fall out of sight. Either way, we are all perfectly as we should be. It's not so much that I don't believe there is a God. It's more like I'm not truly convinced that if he does exist, that he is on our side at all. Thank you very much. My name is P.W. Covington. It's been great reading for you.
All right.
Give it up again.
Man.